What do you think the biggest misconception is about Aussies with money or Aussies and money problems?
Great question, Glenn. I think it's about ownership of what the money problem is. And, you know, it's easy to think too that those problems are solved by earning more, you know, taking on more work or working harder. And I think the difficulty with that is it sends people on this never-ending treadmill. And we always talk, you know, the permanent wage slave, if you like. And I see a lot of people trapped in that cycle.
Yeah. And like how you wrote the book, How to Stop Worrying About Money. Like it's all well and good for me to stop worrying about money now as a, you know, eat, pray, love vibe. But the practicals are I'm a slave to my job. I'm up to here in debt. I hate life. I'm all this stuff. I've got all this weird money stuff. Like how would you say that someone can unpluck their money chicken mess?
Yeah, I think the key thing is you do have to get a handle on it, and I think it's all about making choices. So think about what the trade-offs might be, and you've got to start somewhere. So, you know, my advice to people is just take that moment, find whatever the quiet time is in your week. Maybe it is a late Saturday morning, maybe it's Sunday. Get a cuppa, sit down, open up online banking, and just jot down. I refer to it as the, you know, open your front door costs. But I actually think at some point it starts there. I know that you and I have slightly different views on is it more income or is it, you know, closing your expenses down. But I think it's a balance between both and actually working out, just have a look at what you spent in the last month. Write it down on the back of an envelope or on a piece of paper or in a workbook. Write down every little cost that you've got going out the front door, because I think it's quite alarming, and what you and I both have experienced, I'm sure, and we know everyone has, this phenomenon of expense creep, you know, belts you right between the eyes. And before you blink, your Netflix subscription, your Bupa or your health insurance, whoever that might be, they've all jacked up quite considerably. And so you thought that your cost base was X, but when you sit down over that coffee, you start to realise, oh, actually, there's been quite a few substantial increases in that. So how do you actually fix that? And that's really the starting point.
I really like what you said about ownership, and I kind of talk maybe the same word, but I'm pretty much like, you know, if you rock up today and this is the first time you've listened to a money podcast and your life's a mess and all that stuff financially, absolutely, we have so much compassion, help, grace, tools, resources to get you up and going. But if you are listening to this podcast and you listen regularly and you hear Glen say, if you can't pay off your credit card every month and you pay 1 cent of interest, I'm sorry, you're overspending and you can't manage money. You have not actually taken ownership of your situation. So I think it is that process, isn't it? It's like, where are you at in your money journey?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's almost, I reckon as well, insert journey here. It could be your health journey, it could be your fitness journey, it could be your relationship journey, wherever it is. And I reckon, if I may rant a little bit, we can't outsource our problems to other things or people, particularly money problems.
Yeah. And actually, if I can just, I know a sense where you might be heading. One of the things I would say to you is
I don't know where I'm heading.
If I had $1 for every time someone rang me and said, I think I need a financial advisor, I can tell you, I say to them, before we take you down that $5,000 to $10,000 spend path, let's just have a conversation. And the thing that I find overwhelmingly common is that people don't actually know what their lifestyle is costing them for starters. So we're at the starting gate. Imagine you turn up to a financial advisor, the time that you have to spend, you know, working through a process to understand where people are at, just where they're at. We're not talking about the future at all. We're stuck here and now. So there is a big element of, as I say, getting your house in order, or I like to think of it as first understanding what it costs to open your front door.
Yeah. My verbiage is what it costs to wake up of a morning.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, you're already in the house, in the bed. I'm at the front door saying, can you afford that place, right? Like, because that's something I see all too often is so much focus on having the right place in the right suburb maybe with the right furniture, all those types of things, a bit like keeping up with the Joneses. And so the first question maybe is your lifestyle being right-sized to your income? And sure, go get another job, earn more money, but is that something you might need to think about in the interim?
Yeah, and I reckon and this is why it's really hard to kind of do a broad-based podcast like this and even write money books, because someone might pick up your book, which we'll talk about. They might be in their early 40s, they're renting, they're well established, they've got all this stuff. It's really hard for them to like, chill out, Jacqui. I've got this happening here. Like, give me a break. Yeah. It's harder for them than someone in their early 20s just started with a grad career with only a phone bill and a bit of board at home to build their financial life. So it is tough and hard. And, I got an email I've got an Instagram and I will read it because it's just an amazing message that I got from a listener who, and we get this all the time, we want stuff overnight, but we actually have to put the time in, the effort and the sacrifice to make that change. And it's going to be longer and harder for some of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you think about our life's journey, at some point people decide to take responsibility financially. Some people take that step really late. In fact, I see it with people approaching 50. So it's rare probably to see someone at 20 having that focus, but actually people who are reflecting on a lifetime of being a spendthrift, for example, having credit cards, using Afterpay, all those types of things, and suddenly pulling up, one story I share is that classic one where someone's almost going to be homeless, in retirement because they've actually not saved and don't have any investments. So they're reliant on an income, and that's all fine until you get made redundant. And the brakes go on. So I guess the opportunity is there for everybody, though, to come back from that. And I've seen great turnaround stories, if you like, from people where they've perhaps been spendthrifts or haven't. Their money stories sort of tied up in a life of that. Their parents were similar, and they've continued down that path sort of, a bit hand to mouth until they've suddenly felt like, I've got to make a change here. And I've seen some people do some really good turnarounds.
Yeah, I say in my book, if you do have lots of credit card debt and personal loans and a money mess, and it's totally fine. We've all been there. I've been there myself. It's like I've tried everything dumb and I've done it 3 times. I think unless you are, that rock bottom and you are actually ready, I pretty much said in the chapter, stop reading this book now. I don't want you to clean up your mess only to get to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm debt-free. Now I can afford a new personal loan for a holiday. Just stop. Yeah.
And I think similarly for me, going through divorce caused that rock bottom moment. And I had a couple of, 3 young kids and financial commitments, and starting from all I had was a great career. I shouldn't say all I had, but I had a great career, and I was basically it's ground zero. And I think what that taught me was, in a good way, how to start again. But it was a genuine opportunity to reset. So in terms of those goals, and that's something we probably should chat a little bit about today, because I do think it's critical, is that whole goal setting. And I like to think, if I said to somebody, can you set a money goal? Everyone's running out the door, right? They can't think of anything worse. People say, no, let's think about a life goal. And that might be a sabbatical. You might decide you want to go overseas for 3 months and hand money off to somebody. How do you plan for that? That can be really exciting. And that's when you say, okay, well, here are the steps. You might need to hire somebody. You might need to lease space to somebody, all sorts of things. Or if you're in a corporate job, you might need to find somebody who can do that work while you're away. But what underpins it is, how do you manage the money side of it? And so what costs might you not have in that situation? Or do you need to start a side hustle to supplement your income to get you there? But these are all nice things. But I think when we're focused on the other goal, it's so much more fun than, Jacqui said, I can't have takeaway coffees for the rest of my life because I want to have 3 months off work. Yeah, there's another way of looking at it. And it can be, it can put, some energy in your boots, I think, when you've got goals set like that.
100%. Well, everyone, you are in for a great chat today. This podcast is brought to you by Sphere Home Loans. Now, if you are one of those established people and you have a mortgage and you haven't had someone throw their eyes over it in a long time, why don't you check out Sphere Home Loans if you do not have a mortgage broker? If you've already got a broker, go back to your own broker. But if you don't have a broker, Sphere Home Loans in the comments, search Sphere Home Loans. If you want your first home, your first investment property, we are pro mortgage broker here. I can 100% recommend and suggest Sphere Home Loans. If you haven't already heard as well, on the back of that, Rachel Kroon, the founder and director of Sphere Home Loans, is now the new host with John Pidgeon on the This Is Property podcast. Emily Wallace stepped away a few months ago. It's all good, no scandal there. And I'm just doing some housekeeping for our listeners, Jacqui. And we were going to do a show with Rach because I think she's fantastic. And she was in here in the studio. We did the screen tests and some demo days. And then Emily had to depart. And we're like, well, hang on. There's a vacancy. Let's insert Rach. So Sphere Home Loans. And you might not know yet, but who are we talking to today?
Great question. So Jacqui Clarke, multi-award-winning author of Stop Worrying About Money, non-executive director, veteran business executive, and so much more. And we are listening to Money, Money, Money with Glen James.
You're listening to Money, 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 or as the regulars like to call us, M3. Everything discussed on the podcast is general advice only, which I'm licensed to give, and details can be found in the show notes. My name's Glen James, former financial advisor, now podcaster. I host this show and a show called Retire Right. I've also got a book called The Quick Start Guide to Investing, which you can check out wherever good books are sold, or there's a link in the show notes. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening today. Now on with the show. Okay, Jacqui, what are you doing right now? Your book, as it now, at the end of May, it's just won an award, Stop Worrying About Money. This podcast is going up on my birthday, everyone. So there you go, 24th of June. You're welcome, everyone, for me being born. What are you doing? What's your day job? What's your life? Who are you?
Oh, so that's a complicated question. So many things. And it is complex, actually. I've got a portfolio career now, Glenn. I stepped out of the big four accounting firms 5 years ago, and I springboarded straight into a couple of family board roles, subsequently had some ASX board roles, and throughout that time continued in my journey really advising wealthy families on how to manage money challenges, actually. So a lot of issues around behaviour to money and how to navigate succession in families around wealth. So that's kind of what I do with my time. And I think one of the really exciting things about becoming an author, which I know you'll have experienced, is having fun like this, getting to talk to people like you and others to, share our financial wisdom. It's in a different way. I
actually hate doing the PR for my books and all the podcast interviews.
I don't think anybody likes the PR, but I enjoy these conversations because I get so much out of them, whether it's the preparation, just having the chat, listening to other people's views. It's really valuable. And I know people like to hear it. So it's good fun. It's opened up a whole nother dimension for me. The author network has actually found a whole lot of really smart people, which is kind of nice. Bit different to the accountants I'm used to hanging out with. Sorry to all the accountants out there.
So Stop Worrying About Money, your book, who did you write it for?
I wrote it.
Do I need it if I don't worry about money?
There's a lot of life lessons in it. I wrote it for my younger self. And, it wasn't titled Stop Worrying About Money when I started writing. But I think it was very clear when I started approaching publishers that they could see that it was written by someone. So it's kind of like self-therapy, right? It was written by somebody who worried about money. And there's been times in my life, and I mentioned being divorced, which is now almost 15 years ago actually, where I really worried. And my parents used to joke, that I had the first dollar that I earned in my life until I got divorced. So I think it's come from that place, but I also noticed, I think, through life experiences and a lot of what I've seen over the years with the families and companies, businesses I've worked with, is just where people make mistakes and they need some guidance on how to navigate out of it.
And it was a bit tongue-in-cheek when I basically asked an author, should people not buy your book? But we are only one financial thing out of our control, one event out of our control until you step over that, oh my gosh, I'm worrying about money.
Yeah. Oh, look, absolutely. And it can take, sure, it can be a health crisis. It can be an insurance issue. I was talking to a lovely lady yesterday who'd had some fraud committed on her by an advisor, which is unfortunately still all too common. So it is interesting that people perhaps aren't prepared for things to go wrong. And so part of reading my book, and yours as well, is really that preparedness, or help sort of arming people with more tools to navigate what I call life's ups and downs, which guaranteed to happen. I just had both my parents pass away in the last year, completely unexpected, separately, but unexpected. And I was their executor, so that made life a bit easier in the sense I knew where things were at. I looked after their sort of finances their whole lives, but a lot of people aren't in that position. And I see some of the worst things happen in those situations. So, yeah.
What do you reckon the best financial decision that you have made in your life and career?
Oh, well, setting goals. And
Okay.
I know we talked a little, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I think when for me, it was always basic things like, and I say basic, I wanted to own my home. Now you can spend a life paying one off, but I did want to own a home rather than rent. I've done both in my life. But the other thing was when I was going through divorce, which, as I said, is 15 years ago now, I'd started paying for my kids' education, which was private at the time, and I thought I wanted to commit to their education. So my main goal, even around my career, was focus on making sure that's paid for. And so that sort of came above a lot of things for me. So that was, other things were sacrificed to do that. But at the same time, I balanced that out when I've heard you talk about it, very important things like life and TPD insurance and trauma, but having insurances in place so that if anything happened to me, my kids would be protected. Yeah, so I do think if I look back, it's the goals underpinning the steps I've taken. But look, I've always worked. I wouldn't know what to do with myself otherwise. So I think goals are just a handy way of keeping me on track.
Yeah, and I'm pretty. Actually, someone said to me the other day, "You're too open and honest on the podcast," but I'm just an open sharer. But like before we hit record today, I was asking Jacqui about, an outsourced CFO service for my business, and because I'm at the stage where, in terms of the business, it's established. We've been doing this podcast now since 2018, well established. I don't really have any structure because I'm actually crap at managing money. Like I'm the money guy or a money guy, and I suck at managing money. So in my personal life, that's why I've got a really good system that I outsource my behavior to that system. Yeah. And that helps me keep on track.
Yeah, and
but
that's
in the
gold.
business,
that's gold. You have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
in the business, I don't have that. And I need to now get a bit more dialed in because, and this is the thing, you might be out there doing very well with your money personally, like I am. And you might just have a couple of bank accounts. Oh, we don't go into debt. We're saving. If I need something, I just put the money in the jar and grab it. But if there's no goals linked to your system and your life, and I'm talking to myself at the moment because I'm leading somewhere with this that hopefully will encourage everyone, you will just micro overspend and it will just kind of creep up. I'm now looking at, in my personal life, I actually don't have any financial goals in my personal life.
Well, you probably could think of some though.
And
think of it another way, just in that conversation of outsource CFO or finance function. I often talk to people about their personal finance village. So it's like, and this is a big issue, I think, for all of us, is kind of who's in that circle of influence that we talk to and work with. And if my strengths are X or Y, and perhaps I'm not so good on how I run the business side of things or the admin, you need to bring somebody in to do that for you. And I think that's where I talk about the personal finance village being that non-emotional sounding board that can kind of help you, hey, Glenn, you probably need somebody to help you out here. Let's get this stuff on track, because this could be one of those flaws that might, cause you problems in the future. And so one of the things is considering who we all have around us, and whether that's a business coach or a financial advisor, or a lawyer or a good mate who's qualified in a particular area that's relevant to the decision you're trying to make.
Yeah, and I will probably tack onto that to get people thinking. At the start of the episode, you talked about, we don't just need a financial advisor and drop $4,000 or $5,000. And that's kind of the backstory for your kind of FYI, Jacqui. I started this podcast because when I was a practicing financial advisor, had all these people come in, hey, Glenn, we need financial advice. We need financial advice. I'm like, no, you don't. You need to budget. You need to spend less than what you earn. And you need to,
save
get
something.
Your house in order.
Yes. Yeah.
Then we can work with you. Now, I think we don't always need a financial advisor, but we need a financial plan. So in that village, you might not always need that lawyer, but you've got that trusted person to plug in if you want to buy property, if you've got some issues. And I think with the changes that I personally have and, building this studio and all that, I'm just doing it different now because I can't continue to expect different results with the same vibe in my business. And this is the challenge to people listening. You can't expect a different financial result in the next 6 months, 12 months, 1 month, or 1 week if you keep doing the same thing. End of podcast. And I'm not saying this preachy as in do this. I'm friggin' living this myself today. I was talking to my bookkeeper today. I'm like, I need to change something because I need a different result here and I can't just wish it upon.
No, and actually one of the things I do talk a lot about, Glenn, is the biggest money mistakes people make. And I think there are 3 of them. I'm going to write these down. Yeah, and the first one, which you're going to hate, is wearing and driving your money, which is people. And I've got to be honest, if you're 30, it's a lot easier to own a nice car than it is to own a home. And so it's within your reach and you go for it. The second thing is basically head in the sand, which a lot of people are in denial about what type of money position they're in or situation they're in, because, money comes in, money goes out, it all kind of works, we're okay. And then the third one is just having no idea of what it costs to open the front door, really understanding what baseline costs there are for their lifestyles. And so this is good. This is good. So I reckon those listening, because I'm just going this. So number one, I categorically do not wear or drive my money. Yeah, that's like I've got a $22,000 Volvo that I bought. Oh yes, cash. I did hear about the Volvo. Yes, and you do you buy car, and I am similar. I used to lease my cars though. So when I was 30, I'd be leasing the latest, or 35 maybe, the latest BMW or something, right? So, and part of that for me was also corporate culture. So I was in a place where that seemed to be the right car to have, and it was within reach. And then clothes, I appreciate you've got a great uniform and I'd like to have the same one. But it's another thing that's within reach. And if you're turning up to an office or a business premise each day and you don't have the beautiful black T-shirt, which I generally wear, by the way, just not today for you, then you spend money on those things. And then it's the accessories that go with it as well. It's just easy. It's easy to spend. And there's no guardrail, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that's true. The checklist is your head in the sand. Now, I don't think my head's in the sand about my situation. I know that I need to change something because I want a different result in my business, but it can apply in your own financial life. So are you in denial? Are you actually, like we said at the top, taking ownership of your situation? So my head isn't in the sand, and my baseline cost, I know how much it is to wake up of a morning. Yeah,
which I love. And if you're staying within the limits of that, and checking that every quarter. You just go back and, because we know how costs go up, check back in with that.
Yep.
And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, so we do, and there's a free download. If you just want to Google, everyone, the Glen James Spending Plan, it's a 100% free online course. You can download my spreadsheet. You can put all your income on page 1, all your expenses page 2. On page 3, it will tell you exactly how much it costs you to wake up of a morning.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that's really good. So the question is, if you aren't yes to all of those 3, what are you going to change tomorrow to start to move to a yes?
So if you're in a position where you are making those mistakes?
Well, I'm just kind of like, if you're like, no, I'm a realist with my head's not in the sand. I know it costs me X amount to wake up of a morning, but I get a bit spendy on clothes and the car, and I know it's a luxury.
Yeah.
So it's just more of that awareness.
Yes. Because
and taking action.
And it takes us to the ultimate question, right, which is, are you going to continue to work the way you are for the rest of your life? And if the answer to that question is no, and I guarantee every listener will say no, then how the hell do you think you're going to get off this treadmill if you don't make changes? And quite frankly, the bottom line of all this is, what percentage of all of that analysis is leading to savings and investment? So at what point is income being generated that's not requiring you to show up every day? You know, I always am looking for opportunity or ways, how can I create, you know, we used to call them sleep works when I was at Deloitte, you know, where the business was making money while we were sleeping. So what are the things, how are you putting money aside, whether it is something as simple as compound interest in a term deposit or something, but where are you actually taking advantage of those things to create income streams that just don't rely on physical exertion? And that's when you start to crack the nut open, because the reality is a lot of people haven't got that set aside. They might dabble, but it'll be $5,000, maybe $10,000. You know, it'll be play money and probably more risk, likely having a higher risk profile.
Yeah, I just back to the cars thing, because a lot of us will spend too much on cars, and that's, you know, it just, and a funny thing, I had a friend call me the other day, their family car they've had for over 12 years, they did buy it brand new with a loan, and like, that's all well and good. Then it's like, oh, Toyota, we can do the Prado, and they've got this finance, and then there's the future value guarantee. So at the end of the 4 years, that you buy it back. And I'm like, mate, based on your situation right now and the history of your family's car ownership, please just go get a loan. Don't do it more than 4 years. Put 20% into it and just buy it, because you're going to keep the car for 10, 12 years. I don't want to see you now onto this endless treadmill.
Yeah. Well, you know,
of balloon payments and cash outs.
Is the opportunity for everyone listening, it's like, what are your money values? So if we haven't worked those out, part of it, for example, for me, changed from leasing everything to owning things outright. So like trying to take those, they're big steps, but they require some serious focus on outgoings. Like, you've got to absolutely know what you're outgoing. You've got to own every outgoing. I know, going back to sort of
and like I'm kind of like, I buy my phone outright now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
that's
I even
great.
do that. Like, every area is just, I need a new iPhone, bam, done.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to get to that level.
Yeah. So being prepared to, so we haven't talked about the word sacrifices yet, and I know that sounds a bit harsh. People might find that harsh. I earn my money, I can do what I want with it. But actually, I think that some of, if you look at your money values, and they are that you'd like to be able to save some money and have some investment income down the track, then you might need to make some sacrifices against what you thought was a suitable lifestyle for the income you're earning. And that's that can be quite in your face, and it requires a whole lot of discipline. And we talked a little bit before, but having guardrails on, which is kind of where these goals, if you go big picture, come in. They're quite handy. You know, I think about the North Star, not the North Star that King Charles was talking about on the news this last week, but actually having a North Star about where you want to head to. And you can use your money values, you can use your life goals, whatever it is, but just helps kind of tame the beast, the spending beast, because, I think we're all the same. We're in this capitalistic world. The whole job is to find a new product, produce a new iPhone that looks something different. So we all have to own that. We feel completely taken. You just got to have this stuff. And so you keep upgrading, you keep spending more, and then the reality is you can't keep up with it. And you need another job, It's tough.
Yeah. And I think the challenge for people listening is, what guardrails can you put in your life? And I really, as an example, we can get caught in the weeds easy. People were like, oh, what card should I use when I travel overseas?
Yeah.
For my own life, I've got a category guardrail. When I travel overseas, I don't use any of the big 4 bank cards because the spread's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's just the guardrail.
Yeah. But
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they just, the hard rule in my life, I pay cards with cash. I don't use those cards overseas. I have a weekly allowance to my spending account. If I run out of money on the day before payday, I'm happy to have cereal that night.
Yeah, you'll be having 2-minute noodles. Yeah. So that's, so you're making some pretty big sacrifices, or not sacrifices, but you're acknowledging that the goals are in place or the frameworks in place to keep you on track. And I think that's really valuable.
I know that Glen James is a recovering spender.
Yeah.
My emergency fund is an offset account, but it's hidden in my internet banking. I can't actually physically see it.
Yeah, that is a great
But I know
idea.
that there's 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, worth of cash there.
Yeah. You think about how much stress money behaviours can cause. And if in the absence of a guardrail, you can go off course really easily. Yeah, and if we don't have a North Star, the risk is that you end up in debt that feels insurmountable. And I guess I've seen the worst example of that, where somebody has committed suicide, for example, and they haven't been able to face the consequences of the debt and other things like gambling, addiction, where the hole is too deep and they can't find a way out. So nobody wants to be in that situation. But I think our overall well-being is tied to our financial well-being. And we all have an opportunity, but also a responsibility to take it quite seriously. And if not for you, then if you've got a partner, it's the same thing. It's no question that people come into relationships and they have completely different spending habits and behaviours. But I think you can say that here's my money story. This is where I came from. Here's where we would like to go. Let's sort of set some ground rules up so that we both agree that you can have the kind of slush fund or whatever it might be to do the play things, but let's limit it to here because our overarching goal together is buying an investment unit or whatever it might be. Or it might be buying a nice car. I don't think it matters so much what the thing is, but demonstrating the discipline to actually do that, I think, is half the job. Actually having a conversation. You know what I like when you said you often maybe are quite open about these things, but one of the things I'm a big fan of is normalizing money conversations so that people don't, I grew up in a generation where it's still a bit, people are still a bit awkward talking about money. Yeah, sure, you don't ask somebody what they earn or how much they're worth, but you can have really practical conversations about how to save money, like going overseas. I've got young adult sons who travel overseas and we'll use, not even though we're with a big 4 bank, we'll use a non-big 4 bank card to travel, but partly through being burnt by fees and charges, at other times. So, anyway,
Well, we'll take a break and we'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. But if you want guidance tailored to your situation, head to moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help. We'll connect you with one of our trusted professionals, financial advisors and mortgage brokers, who work with people right across Australia. No matter where you are, they can help. Now, before we get back to the show, a quick reminder to protect your financial life. That means having income protection sorted. It means having death cover if there's any debt or dependents relying on you. It means getting your personal insurance in order. Most people insure their car, they insure their house, but what about themselves? Sky Wealth, who support this podcast, are specialist financial advisors who can help you get the right cover in place. Their advice is often more comprehensive and better value than going direct through your super. Book a complimentary 15-minute chat at sky.com.au. That's skye.com.au refinance.com.au and they'll point you in the right direction.
Okay, we are back. We asked you in the Facebook group, what's the most random thing you've ever sold or flipped cash for? Firstly, if you do want to join the Facebook group, it's Money, Money, Money Podcast is a Facebook group. Just put, where did you hear about us? Put episode 822, whatever this episode's going to be, 825. What is this episode going to be? I think it's 825, whatever it is, because then we know you're not spam. There's probably now 95% of people joining Facebook groups are spam hacked accounts. It won't be weird for me to log in and see that there's 50 join requests, and I kid you not, 3 of them are legit, 4 of them are legit. So put that 100% in the comments. Now, you've got this thing here. We just do first names only. I'll start with Kayla. A broken fan. Disclosed it was broken and still made about $15. Awesome.
That's great. I've got Jasmine here. Size 13 Converse sneakers she found in the bin room in her apartment building, listed them on Gumtree for $40 and they sold immediately. In addition to that, the box, the iPhone came in. She listed on eBay listed it for $30 and ended up posting it to someone interstate, so they paid postage too. That's a cracker. That's a great one.
Wow.
And then used food colouring, vinegar and rice as a play idea for a toddler. Then when it was done, she listed on Marketplace as sensory rice, and someone came and picked it up for $20. What a steal.
I like how I gave you that long one to read.
Yes.
Kim said, the free items you get from Coles with points. I collected all the knives just for buying basic items. My big family needs and sold items that her big family needs, and sold a set for $400 and 2 individual knives for $40, making me $440 for the items I got for free. There's money out there, people.
Yeah.
There's money out there. If you need some extra cash.
Absolutely. I like Wendy's one because I think there's a real market for this. My handwritten uni notes helps that maths doesn't really change over time. I think there's absolutely a market for uni notes and textbooks.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Renee, a branded Monopoly set from work at Christmas. Turns out collectors love them.
I got Sally here. Dozens of pots of cat grass during Melbourne lockdowns, $5 a pop. Wow. She made serious bank on Marketplace during lockdown, $6,800, selling things like cat grass and any other random thing at a house. That's great. Her biggest annual Marketplace profit now comes from selling her tip passes and exchanging hard rubbish collections for tip passes and selling them onto local tree stump removal business for $100 each. Nearly covers the rates for a year, right? She's got it.
Jessica said she sold her hair.
Do you want me to do Christina?
Yeah.
A kombucha mother. There's money in those. That makes sense to me. You'd pay for a kombucha mother.
I don't even know what that is.
It's the thing they put in it to create booch. Like it's the.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nikki said, my parents sold our kitchen on eBay when we did a renovation 15 years ago.
I've done that.
Naomi said, half-used candle, profit of over $600 over the years. Half-used candles.
Yeah, okay, that's a bit rich. What about Adelaide's had a carport and a house and their house fence? They just told people to go and remove it themselves. Made some good money out of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've got a crazy story in finishing this segment. Back when I started my business in 2010, gosh, I'm old. I needed a 2-drawer filing cabinet, right? And I've shared this on the podcast, I think once or twice, but it's new people. It's fantastic. It was a local guy around the corner, eBay, $1, won the auction, right? Filing cabinet, awesome. Drove around. Hey, mate, how are you? Good. Weirdest guy on the planet. Put the 2-drawer filing cabinet in my boot or the hatch, right? And I'm like, here's $20. Because I'm like, yeah, here's $20. Thanks for that. Like,
you're winning.
It's worth $20.
Yeah.
Take $20. I don't want to give you $1. He goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. I was like, oh, no. Anyway, get the message later on eBay. Hey, are you able to transfer the $1 to my account?
What?
Yeah.
He's doing his Excel spreadsheet to capture his incoming
Yeah. Anyway, I can't even deal
No.
I can't even deal. Look, we've covered a lot of ground. Some things that I picked up on. I want to talk about passive income because that's kind of, the whole first half we kind of talked about getting everything sorted, and you might be new to this money story. If you want to turn it up to 11 and you got everything humming, like what is your experience and view of the best form of passive income that people can get their dirty little capitalist pig mitts on?
Ooh, that's a hard one. So the laziest form, of course, is just term deposits, putting your money in a bank, like doing it, if that's what you mean, like basically having an interest-bearing account, siphoning money off to another account that actually pays a decent rate of interest.
But how is, I guess, but how's that different than like a dividend ETF?
It's not actually. Company? It just requires perhaps less risk with it. So I guess you'd consider what your risk profile was if you're looking at that. I like to think of, I keep thinking of supplemental income sources, not necessarily what are passive sources of income other than creating new income streams in your business. But that's, depending on who's delivering on that, whether it's probably not passive, that's active.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably, once you go past dividends, interest, if you've got managed funds and you've got whatever they're churning out, trust distributions, there's not many other sources. You can obviously go for buying and selling equities. Good luck.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Daily,
the buy and
hourly.
hold is the best thing you can do for passive income.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you see it time and time again, actually. And look, I think there's a lot to be said for this. I talked a little bit, I mentioned that a friend had just recently become unstuck due to some being scammed by an advisor. And I think one of the things I always say to people is do your due diligence. So if you get, you're at the barbecue on the weekend or you're out fishing and you run into somebody, Glen, and they say, hey, mate, I reckon you should buy shares in XYZ. And you go, and he says, I've already made this much. And you go, oh, okay, sounds like a good investment. I hear that our kids talking like that, and they're in ETF land, right? And the challenge is to not fall into the trap of just doing that because your mate said it was a good idea. The challenge and the opportunity is how do you build your own financial literacy by actually understanding what this thing is that you're putting money into and doesn't actually make sense, and do you really understand the company? A lot of people don't do the research. They just take the word for it.
Or in that situation, see is that ownership thing, see for what it is. It's a tip, it's a punt, it's a nothing.
Yeah.
Because I had the same situation the other day. A couple of months ago, I was at a lunch in the city. A whole heap of different people there. And I'm like, I said to someone like jokingly, like, got any good stock tips for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this one here. I'm like, all right, stuff you. So I downloaded went to the app page or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I've only got $1,000 in the cash count. Yeah. So I've put $1,000 in there.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, stuff you. It's a little penny stock, done. And then like, it did like 30, 40% in the coming months, right? Now, that's fun. That's awesome. I'm not allergic to cash. But in those situations, I saw it for what it was. It was a punt. It was a nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not turning around and changing my financial strategy and putting $50,000 in there and then DCAing every month into it.
Yeah. And you weren't foregoing a repayment on your car, which you don't have.
No.
But I think that's where I see problems arising, is that people might actually do that and then realise that the credit card bill's due, they don't have the money, or the lease payment's due on the car, whatever it might be, and the money's not there because they've at lunch said, I'm just going to do that, why not? Sounds like a good idea. I think you got to have a buffer, don't you? I mean, aren't we trying to create buffers as well?
Well, I just think I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and I jump onto Reddit some nights and just have a bit of a look, and that's wild.
Yes.
The problem I see is when people get investing, because people will do it, here's my portfolio of 5 ETFs and all this crap, and what do you think? I reckon a lot of people are investing to hopefully make it solve all their problems and to not have to work, to escape from something. Yeah. But if you actually have a look at the maths of it, you get the most kind of actual dollar return bang for buck once the savings rate kind of isn't as big a deal once you're over 100,000 in an investing account, because then if it was an 8% return that year, it could be $8,000, right? So, but if we go, okay, we're starting $500 a month in our investment account, to get to that $100,000, that's going to be a few years, number one. Number two, if we did get to that $100,000 in there and it did do 8% and we got an $8,000 return, my problems in life are still there.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we shouldn't be using our investing and looking for the passive income and income streams to run from something.
Yes, you mean like a distraction. It could be
or
a distraction.
A parachute.
Yeah.
As soon as I win lotto, I will X.
Yeah, and this is where setting goals right at the start comes back, because I think we all fall into the trap often of shiny new toys or shiny objects, and it's easy to go for that. It might also be that you're sitting on the couch watching the TV or streaming something, and an ad comes up about a trip that's somewhere you've wanted to go, and the price is just like, you just got to say, oh my God, I've got to do that. That's taking you off course. So I think that's where the goal setting is so critical, because it just keeps you on track. And sure, with that you can have leeway, but I think you've got to be practical about the implications of that. Yeah, and we need consistency. And the only way you get that is by setting up a plan in the first place.
Because wherever you go, there you are. And, you know, I categorically think, because I was thinking about this the other day, when I moved to my unit on Newcastle Harbour, I'm like, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to go for a walk every morning across the harbour and all this. I was like, well, I'm not going for a walk every single morning in my current house. Sure, I might do it for the first couple of weeks and then I'll get back to normal.
Yeah.
So we can't use, and I think what I'm saying is if you're trying to get to the stage where you have that passive income because then all your problems are solved, stop now and just work on the problems. And that is, I hate my job. Okay, we'll find a new job or new career. Yeah. Okay, that could genuinely take 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah. And while I'm on that, I'm going to walk over and grab my phone because I want to read this message from a listener. Yeah. And then while I'm over there, I want you to maybe just tell us a little bit about when you remarried and there's a blended family, how you merged both of the money things with the new Mark II.
Yes, I can. Thank you. Mark II. Well, look, that was a really big challenge, and we had 5 children in a blended family, Glen, going to private schools, and we both had the entire financial responsibility for the children and our former spouses. So it was pretty serious stuff and mega cash flow requirements. We had loans for everything. So we were both starting from flat zero. We just had a great income. So we were absolutely on a treadmill, and it was all, I mean, I've always loved my work and I love turning up every day, but there was definitely, it had a means to an end. We actually very quickly ended up finding a house together. And so that was really good opportunity to do planning around getting our wills done. So actually having clear, expectations around what would happen if either one of us died, how we would protect all of the children. And we redo that all the time. The kids are now like mid to late 20s. So you kind of got to look at those things pretty regularly. But we just went about being very clearly on the same page. We're both accountants, so
boring.
Yeah, my first husband was a tradie, and I ran that business, so it's a bit different. But no, we're both reasonably creative and just merged everything financially. And so any of my husband's debts relating to his former partner, like I took those on no differently, really. And we, in a lot of respects, my income actually paid for a lot of the school fees for a period of time as well because of the commitments to his ex-partner. So, yeah, pretty complicated. But it took we did take a lot of debt on, but we were backing ourselves. And that's something else I think when I talk about people recovering from life's challenges, that at an age in your late 30s or even early 40s, you got the opportunity to back yourself. You've got the energy and the health behind you. You really got to make hay while the sun shines, and we did that. And that was by having the same bank accounts, having separate money invested down the track, and we were nowhere near that at the time. But we took pretty big risks on property, getting into the market together. We had really high debt. We were able to borrow a lot of money without tapping into having to pay mortgage insurance, for example, but right on the borderline of having to pay mortgage insurance. So, and we had those horrible situations when NAB refinanced and said that the property was valued at a lower level and wanted more money. We went through all that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And we just backed ourselves again and continued to focus on paying the mortgage off, which is what you do. And slowly over time just also made decisions on property, so exited property, probably much to the disgust of our family or kids, when we decided we wanted to sell something up to crystallise that gain where we'd made it and then reinvest in something different. And like we've just recently completed a big downsize of the family home with like a 19-year-old who's at uni, which he, I'm sure he'll forgive me by the time he's 50. But we didn't just downsize into an apartment ourselves. We bought an apartment for the kids so they can come and go because they're all over the place in their 20s, the rest of them. So, so that was a big deal.
So you bought 2 apartments?
Yeah, one for us.
Yeah, okay.
And so we kind of get to live like adults. Well, we were all adults, and they still come home for dinner, but we have our own space and they have their own space. And it's sort of
I guess it's a creative way to be in the area that you wanted, and
it's all of that.
Still have the space.
Yeah, and just giving. So it's we're probably a bit advanced for our age in doing something like that, but we could just see the opportunity, the way the market was going. It was a good opportunity for us to exit where we were and buy where we were looking. We already had an investment in this particular building, so. But I love it. The simplification of life like that is been a really nice move for us. And I mean, being in an apartment, I never thought I'd be so happy, but my goodness, I love it. Yeah, simple life.
So zooming out.
Yeah.
When you got remarried, you both just had the view that we're in remarried, we're together now. Yeah. It's now a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And
end of things. Like I'm not paying for that school fee because that's not my biological son.
No, it was one bucket.
It's part of the deal.
Yeah, it's one bucket.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, and in fact, even in our estate planning, same thing. We've updated that to make sure that we have our wheels are tied together, so we can't break up. If someone can't die and then I remarry, for example, and cut my stepchildren off, we've appointed the kids in that role. So basically I can't change the will without their permission. So that won't be happening. Yeah, so just a few little guardrails to keep what we've created together in check. And I think part of it is when you have one of those life events happen, it does challenge you to rethink how you might go about it again. I think if you've lost everything too, you're okay. I'm not going to say I'm okay to do it again, but I think you know how to come out of those ashes.
How old were you when you first divorced, sorry?
Yeah, 38.
Yeah, okay. So you pretty much had 39. To press reset on your whole financial life just around age 40.
Yeah.
Well, there's hope for me yet.
Yes.
Jacqui.
Yes.
I can press reset.
You can. Everyone.
It's my
birthday
you know what? Today and I'm getting old.
And it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right. And happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. It doesn't matter what age. I think the opportunity is there to reset, and I think people need to take that away from our chat today, which is actually if you are down a bit of a barrel and you don't know the way out, we've given you tips today that I think are a brilliant start to actually doing that.
Yeah, and I think that the top 3 is, are you wearing and driving your money? Is your head in the sand? And do you have any idea what it costs you to walk in the door, wake up of a morning? Now, in finishing, the message that I referenced at the very start of the episode, this dude, he wrote to me, and this is why, if you want something bad enough and you have a goal, you can get it. Yeah. This is not Glen saying woo-woo stuff. Fact. Yeah. Might take a while, will be a sacrifice, but I'll read this. Hi, Dad. Calls me Dad. You may remember me from 2000.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe. I don't have any children that I know of. Hi, Dad. You may remember me from 2018. He's so-and-so on LinkedIn. He said, I got so excited you liked my post yesterday and people were going to think I'm so cool. I like to post that he just got a new role. He's added me on LinkedIn. He's obviously listened to me since 2018. Yeah, I'm going into the Instagram inbox. Messages go back, crazy stalker, to the end of 2018. So long time
go way back.
Engagement.
Yes.
Yep. Don't know him from a bar.
Is this his first call out on the show as well?
Yeah,
oh, well
I think
done.
It probably would be.
Okay. Oh, he'll be chuffed.
With the help of your show, I left plumbing due to an ankle injury and back pain, landed an entry-level job at Lendy Home Loans, became a mortgage broker, became a home loan credit analyst at Macquarie, now just starting as an aggregator, as a broker at an aggregator, as a broker success manager with a juicy pay rise. Not a flex by any means, but just wanted to share from plumbing to finance. I was listening to every podcast religiously and the impact it had on my life decisions, choosing to stay at home and save, etc. Rent should be XYZ of your salary, all really shaped me not to be a financial dumbass. Looking back, I could have pissed so much money up the wall and did being young, but career-wise, I remember an old podcast you were working on an old podcast, you said you were working at a telecommunications place and you'd tell your peer that one day you'd get out of this place and do what you love, etc. Really motivated me. So I wanted to say thanks. I'm sure your show has helped many people in other ways, but basically you are the financial father I never had. Call me rich daddy, poor daddy. I still think of her name Erin, and she left the show, blah, blah, blah. Hope she's well. Probably is. Hi, Erin. How are you? You regret leaving, don't you? And we wish you all the best, mate. So literally, it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Look, isn't that lovely? Does that bring tears to your eyes? That's pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I like about that message is that he's taken the time, he's invested in developing his financial literacy. And look at the impact. Like it's so, and you do hear people so often feel trapped. And I had a family member not that long ago talk about choosing a job for a family versus what they love doing. And there's an opportunity there to change it. But like when I talk about opening the front door, which front door are you opening? Is it the one that you're in the job that you hate with the people you probably don't like, wearing the clothes and driving the car that you probably don't need? Or is it the one that's better suited to your personality, that fits more within the budget of the type of job you might like to have, and then retrofit your cost base under that? You know, and vice versa. Like, well, what a great story. And I just love to hear the turnarounds like that. And the investment, because I think money's a long game, right? It's not a short game. It isn't gambling, but you are gambling with your future if you don't make a plan around it.
Yeah.
100%.
Jacqui, your book, Stop Worrying About Money, it was runner-up in the most recent Global Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards for Best Book, all focused on financial literacy. So from all of us here, congratulations. I think your publisher is the same as mine, Wiley.
Correct. Yes.
Was it Lucy and the team?
It sure was Lucy and the team.
Far out. Lucy, you get around the book world.
Yeah, she does.
And then Barbara from Mandy Money, she
won
an award as well.
For kids education.
Yeah,
yes.
I texted her this morning and I was like, congratulations.
Yeah, I love her book, by the way.
Yeah, and she's recently been on the podcast. So, look, it's been real, it's been good, it's been real good. So, Jacqui Clarke, can we find you anywhere online?
Oh, yes, I'm everywhere. JacquiClarke.me is my website. Glen, Jacqui Clarke, 000 on Instagram, LinkedIn, Jacqui Clarke. You can find me. I'm easy to find.
Sweet. And we'll put a link in the show notes to my Amazon affiliate link for your book. And
Thank you.
We'll have you on any time you want to have a chat.
Great.
Thanks so much, Jacqui.
Thanks for having me.
And if you found this episode of benefit, maybe you could send it to a friend or family member. Remember, if you haven't already, can you please give us a like on YouTube, a 5-star on Spotify or Apple, and we really appreciate your support with all that you do, whether you're watching or listening. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds financial services license 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective license holders.